Good morning, winners. Welcome to G'day Crypto. You have come here for the crypto news with the fast facts. The main narrative driving the crypto markets today. We have BlackRock and JP Morgan opposing sides of the Bitcoin ETF. There are a few other pieces of news that we need to get into. But first, a little bit of housekeeping here. Thanks very much for subscribing. Definitely not financial advice. If we flip over, let me just bring it up here this morning. It's cut out. Let's start with the housekeeping. We are at block height 798,008. The time is 5:59 a.m. local time. Going over the crypto market cap. 1.22 trillion, up 0.2% last 24 hours. We'll get into Bitcoin and Ethereum in a sec. No real big winners here at the moment. Bitcoin, you can see 30,256, up 0.2% last 24 hours. We've had a high 30,445 with the low $30,089. Very sideways last 24 hours, holding above 30,000, fantastic to see. Ethereum sitting at 1866, up 0.4% last 24 hours there. High 1878, low of 1844. Another sideways day for Ethereum, holding nice and strong just below 19,000. Will be nice to get above that and then start looking to break the $2,000 level. Banner bubbles, no real big winners or losers here. Maker, Flow, PulseX, Hex, a little bit of a loser, always. XEC down a little bit as well. So jumping into the news, ladies and gentlemen, want to dive in to a couple of things in regards to the BlackRock ETF today, because it is changing the landscape of Bitcoin, and some people are going to like it. People that have been in Bitcoin for a long time, it probably goes against everything they stand for. So let's break down a couple of these articles here. BlackRock CEO's turnabout on Bitcoin elects cheers skepticism of crypto cred. Larry Fink, who's the CEO of the world's largest asset manager, said crypto could revolutionize finance, endorsing an industry he once viewed with skepticism. But the very nature of an ETF is at odds with the original ideals of Bitcoin. So it will be easier for fellow Wall Street executives to embrace cryptocurrencies. The exchange traded fund, or ETF, could push the industry in the wrong direction. This is what people are afraid of here. Crypto is losing the plot, said Jim Bianco, president of Bianco Research. It is supposed to be about decentralization, permissionless and self-sovereignty. Getting excited that it is going to become a more accessible poker chip is nice and will help degens in the short term, but it will not help to fulfill the real promise of crypto. Gabor Larry Fink, BlackRock CEO, 2017 Bitcoin Index of Money Laundering. 2023, Bitcoin could revolutionize finance. Files for a Bitcoin ETF. So, Fink said that the asset manager's main goal is to make it easier and cheaper to trade and invest in Bitcoin. Some industry experts worried whether BlackRock might be in it for the wrong reasons. The only reason BlackRock are in here, ladies and gentlemen, is for the money. They don't care about the ethos of Bitcoin at all. They just want to continue to make money. And so in the short term, it will benefit degens. Not your keys, not your coins, hold real Bitcoin, I guess is the message of this video here. So-called mainstream adoption will bring waves of new entrants to Bitcoin, and the risk is that they won't care and won't protect the decentralization properties that make it valuable over centralized alternatives in the first place. Mainstream adoption. Nevertheless, when the leader of the biggest asset manager in the world openly admits that, contrary to his opinion a few years ago, he now sees Bitcoin as digitizing gold, it can't be all so negative, at least for now. So we've got a couple of opposing views here. JP Morgan, the SEC approval of the spot Bitcoin ETF is unlikely to be a game changer for the crypto markets. I wonder if JP Morgan's a little bit sulky here for whatever reason. Any US Securities and Exchange Commission approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF will not be a game changer for crypto markets for a number of reasons, JP Morgan said. I would tend to disagree. Even if it's not institutions pushing up the price, having the narrative that institutions are investing into the BlackRock ETF will allow retail to push up the price. That's the way I see this playing out. Spot Bitcoin ETFs have existed for some time outside the US and Canada and Europe, but have failed to attract large investor interest. That is true. The US being the world's global financial market, I do believe is going to have a very different effect this time around, but those are very dangerous words. This time it is different. When investing, spot ETFs are more likely than future-based ETFs to reflect real-time supply and demand, and their approval in the US would bring more liquidity and enhance price transparency in the spot Bitcoin markets, the report added. They did go to say the introduction of spot Bitcoin ETFs could lead to a migration of trading activity and liquidity away from US Bitcoin futures to the extent spot Bitcoin ETFs replace futures-based Bitcoin ETFs. So within that report that they put out, those experts say it is sounding like they do know that it will push the needle, even though they don't want to say that it is going to push the needle in the right direction. Now, the BlackRock ETF stirs US Bitcoin buying as research says get off zero. Something that we've been saying here for a long time. Shout out to Hader there in the chat as well. Good morning, brother. Bitcoin is a must own as the world's only truly scarce asset, analyst argues, as US Bitcoin accumulation takes a leg up. So, Bitcoin will suck in all prosperity gains in the future and leave behind those who have no exposure as a result. As a result, a new prediction explains, Luke Broyles, definitely follow this guy on Twitter. He delivered a bold vision of how Bitcoin would become society's base money. Every innovation, even AI, will rush as quickly as possible to competitively force prices down. Every country will rush as quickly as possible to print currency to force prices up and sustain credit markets. Both these forces will increase in speed, he wrote. Bitcoin, meanwhile, will remain constant in its emissions, and as a result, even a tiny exposure is a world away from nothing at all. We have less in common with the future than the past. Bitcoin is trading for hundreds of millions of political currency units in many nations already. But the actual big deal is that all prosperity gains from all future innovations will flow into society's base money, Bitcoin, Broyles continued. This is why it's crucial for people to get off zero. Saying Bitcoin is digital gold is like saying a locomotive is an iron horse. Now, there's a couple more things he said. As a result, AI alone could push the Bitcoin price past $750,000 per token. That's from Hayes, who is the former CEO of the crypto derivatives exchange BitMEX. So AI using Bitcoin to be able to transact, and we did see ChatGPT 4 on Twitter over the weekend writing a script to be able to send and receive Bitcoin payments. It is getting very exciting. And this is another reason after the halving why Bitcoin is going to have an extremely interesting rally. We have presidential hopefuls investing, buying Bitcoin, but not only that, they're using it as part of their political campaign. We haven't seen this yet. And this is going to be a big catalyst because it's just going to make it more accepting in the eyes of the average citizen that Bitcoin is here to stay. We've got BlackRock endorsing it. Now we have presidential hopefuls endorsing it as well. So Robert F. Kennedy invested up to $250,000 in Bitcoin after Miami's conference. Recent investment disclosure in contrast with his claims in May that he was not an investor in Bitcoin. So obviously, after that, a record obtained by CNBC shows Kennedy Jr. owned between $100,000 and $250,000 worth of Bitcoin at the end of June. The investment was made after a speech at the Bitcoin 23 conference in May, when he announced that his campaign would be the first to accept Bitcoin donations in the US. During the conference, the candidate also denied investing in Bitcoin. "I am not an investor and I'm not here to give investment advice." I'm not an investor and I'm not here to give investment advice. Still not saying that he didn't have them. In the Twitter post on May 30 stated that cryptocurrency is led by Bitcoin along with other crypto technologies are a major innovative engine, adding that was a mistake for the US government to hobble the industry and drive innovation elsewhere. Pretty exciting that presidential hopefuls are putting this out on the political global stage there. Now, the FOMC meeting, it shows uncertainty, cautious optimism. Large Bitcoin investors are taking divergent paths. We need to see what the big guys are doing, the whales, and they have broken it down here. A couple of things with the FOMC meeting before we look at the size of the bags and what they're doing. The FOMC officials appear cautiously optimistic about inflation and the economy, but also remain concerned about a political recession. Meanwhile, Bitcoin whales increase in number but display different behavior based on size. Central bankers are uncertain about the economy's fate in the months ahead. That's pretty freaking scary statement there. So the June FOMC caution forecasting the possibility of economic recession within the next 6 months, followed by a moderately paced recovery. The possibility of an economic recession, I think most places are already in recession. Expectations that such a recession would be neither deep nor prolonged, and we definitely believe everything that they say for sure. The US economy has been more resilient than the FOMC expected. Conflicting economic data has created uncertainty. ADP employment data showed that private businesses created more than 497,000 jobs in June, most since Feb 2022, well above expectations of 228,000. More June jobs coming in. It's very likely, and we've got like a 90% chance that they're going to raise interest rates. Very, very likely. It's probably sitting at like 97% at the moment. Jolt showed an unexpectedly large contraction of job openings during the same period. They're still going to raise interest rates, in my opinion. So Bitcoin whales, people that hold 1,000 Bitcoin, they increased by 1.6%. So 1,000 to 10,000 Bitcoin have increased by 90,396 Bitcoin, which is 2% higher. Similar gain occurred for investors with more than 100,000. So we got 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000, then 100,000. The cohort that's missing here, ladies and gentlemen, is the 10,000 to the 100,000. So those first three have all grown about 1.6 to 3%. But then if we have a look at these guys, these big whales, since June 14, the supply of Bitcoin for investors holding between 10,000 and 100,000 Bitcoin has fallen 10%. Now, they don't give a reason for that. Some of them will be miners selling off, but we need to pay close attention to what these guys are doing. Where we are in the market right now, I couldn't actually care because it's all noise. It's just when the markets get very frothy, the fear and greed indicator is right up high 80s. Then we need to start watching what these groups of people are doing. Binance, they're not having a real good time at the moment. Obviously, people call it Operation Choke Point. Everywhere around the world, they are under a lot of pressure and under a lot of investigation. So Australia, this was last week, sought out Binance employees outside the office. There's only one of the growing list of legal and technical mints facing the world's biggest crypto exchange. So Representative Binance, individually contacted by the Australian Security and Investment Commission, ASIC, outside the company's offices this week, coordinated effort, the person said, marking yet another jurisdiction in which government watchdogs are closing in. So this is what's been going on. Weighty acquisitions by US regulators to a French raid, to a denial of licensing by the Dutch, to this probe in Australia, Binance is facing legal headwinds in many parts of the world, while its CEO is denying that a spate of departures of key legal and compliance executives is cause for concern. They're going to keep going after Binance, and we just need to sit here on the sidelines, and the court of laws will figure out whether Binance has done anything wrong or not. Everyone around the world doesn't really like Binance because they won't give a country of business. You can see the Bitcoin, the BNB price here, it's 23456. If I refresh it, it's going to change. But that was earlier, 23476. Still pretty close. It's holding up relatively well. A lot of people think if it falls below 200, that's game over. That's end of days there. Shout out to Crypto Pride as well in the chat. Just a feel-good story here for everyone. As Salvadorian teenager becomes a Bitcoin teacher, no longer earning $6 a day. Been in construction his whole life since he was about 17, since he was 11 years old. And now he's teaching Bitcoin. Isn't that amazing? Earning $6 a day doing construction wasn't feasible for me anymore, so I quit without knowing there was an opportunity ahead. He'd always wondered about how people could work so hard for so little. And now he's teaching about world's sound money. That's the opportunity that's been provided here for him. Ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon I will be interviewing Jake Woodhouse, the Bitcoin advisor. That podcast is going to come out in a couple of weeks. But if you see this video before then and you have any questions for him, drop them in the comments or hit us up on Twitter at SeanClark911. I'll be sure to ask him. It's going to be a fascinating conversation. Heaps more coming, so hit subscribe if we vibe. We'll see you on the next video. Be blessed. Peace.